Right, frantic discussion here. We're going to carry on. We don't have a coffee break as such, but we're going to give you a comfort break after the next presentation. So let's, I really enjoyed Corinna's presentation, thank you. There were a number of things which I thought really resonated for me. It's easy to find partners at the moment. You know, everyone is scrambling to find their position in this agenda. I really like the notion of the call from the future. I think it's a really nice phrase. It's kind of what Sam Longman was talking about, I think. You know, in 20 years' time, what will people say of what we do now? So I think that's a really nice way of using, you know, museums' position within understanding the past. And the fact that big change is possible. Sometimes it looks like a horrendously large problem, and yet you talked about a number of things, such as, you know, such as the AIDS cure, perhaps even the COVID vaccine, where we have made extraordinary change in short periods of time, if we only talk to each other about it. So thank you. That was a really inspiring presentation. So we're going to move on to museums as public places for shaping opinion on the mobility transformation. And Michael Vogt from the Dresden Transport Museum. It's really good to welcome you here for the first time, Michael. Good to see you. Over to you.
Yeah. Hello and good morning. I'm happy to be here and to talk to you for museums as a public places for shaping opinions. This topic we heard about something. This is Dresden here, and I am there since October 2020. I'm the head of museums, and we together with the colleagues, we talked about what can we do on the topic which are close to other and in the future. Museums have become part of our recreational entertainment culture. This is clear, I think so. They entertain us with artifacts, information that awakens our interest, evoke memories, satisfies our curiosity, or cause us to reflect or be amazed. But how can museums become places where public opinion is formed? Yet museums are not primarily public spaces. They are not typical meeting spots or marketplaces. Access is not low threshold or barrier-free. Museums are not usually outdoors and generally demand an entrance fee. Nevertheless, dedicated spaces can be created for public discourse in museums, as in any public space. For one thing, the exhibition halls or event spaces in the museums are used collectively. In other words, they are places where people gather. Gatherings of this kind can take on the character of public meetings when they involve an exchange of opinions, perspectives, and positions, for examples about the causes, goals, and means of social change. The Dresden Transport Museum wants to stimulate a lively public debate and help to shape opinion on the transition to sustainable transport and mobility. I certainly do not have to justify to you the relevance of the mobility transformation for our society. It seems self-evident to me that the Dresden Transport Museum should be committed to this issue, and our partners in the city expect it from us. The Dresden Transport Museum is responding to this call with a new series of events called the Dresden Mobility Forum, kind of platform, and a special exhibition on the subject. Let me start with the forum. The Dresden Mobility Forum started with the idea of turning the Dresden Transport Museum into a place for public debate on mobility. Come to the next slide, maybe there or there, okay. This year, 2022, the Dresden Transport Museum launches the forum, first time, together with the DVB. This is the Dresden Municipal Transport Authority in our town. The first two panel discussions here shown were held recently on how to manage the mobility transformation. That was the opener. And shopping in Dresden without a car. And there are 2 venues more to come until the end of the year. The main objective of this panel program is to facilitate controversial discussions and give residents the opportunity to talk to experts in person. The speakers on the panel represent different and in some cases opposing interests. To bring the audience question to the stage, we use a digital feedback system as well called TweetBack that makes it possible to submit comments on the panel discussion and question to the experts direct to the podium. A second host can then feed this question into the discussion at a pertinent moment without the need of a subsequent Q&A session. But beside of this public debate, what could be more appropriate for a museum as to address this topic also in an exhibition? The museum is therefore planning an exhibition on the urban mobility transformation, which will run for 9 months starting in February 2023. While we were designing this exhibition, certain problems and contradictions came to light with the team resolved in a productive debate. They involve matters of political education. The mobility transformation is not an issue like any other. Convinced of the urgent need to shift to more sustainability modes of transport, the creators of the exhibition asked themselves how to convince an audience of the importance of such a transformation and how to motivate them to take action. But soon, skeptical voices made themselves heard in the museum as to whether an exhibition like this would be a success among the public. Apart from being instructive, the exhibition would presumably yield nothing new for us, no matter how entertaining the presentation. But the public is likely to react allergically to finger wagging. Who wants to be lectured? Who wants to be lectured, especially in their leisure time at a museum? But behind the seemingly harmless question lies something fundamental. I'm talking about how a museum sees its role in the knowledge debate, about our view of human nature and the principle of freedom and democracy in society. Should we, as a museum, really set out to change people's behavior or transform their attitudes? I'm sure there are means available to exhibition designers to overwhelm, impress, or even brainwash an audience, which could be used to manipulate people beyond any educational motivation. Put that way, it would probably make most people feel uneasy, even if it's done with the very best intentions. If the Transport Museum wants to take its responsibility seriously in a democratic society, then it faces the task of communicating the mobility transformation without manipulating people, without telling what is good for them. It is about referring the rhetoric of an exhibition back to ethics. I think, therefore, we have to carefully consider whether the audience is able to reflect on an immersive exhibition or not. We should not evoke emotionality detached from cognition. On the other hand, objectified knowledge, such as information on charts and in text alone, is not enough. It usually puts a distance between the content and the recipient. Visitors may be able to gain their own subjective experience. Asking unexpected and unusual questions creates interest and challenging common narratives in an exhibition. Another way of doing this is to change the perspective, making things that are familiar and known seem questionable and in their strangeness and novelty. By creating new contexts and shifting existing ones, things that are familiar appear in a completely different light. That can attract attention and provide a starting point for curating learning opportunities. Finally, visitors should be able to get to the bottom of the information on their own. For this reason, it is good to put them in a position where they feel smarter than the exhibition. This is stimulating, creates a sense of achievement, and strengthens their confidence in their own power of judgment. What about the story of the exhibition? Let me first take up the known facts before I get a step further. Fossil fuel-driven transport is responsible for up to a quarter or a fifth of man-made climate change. From this, we can deduce the importance of a mobility transformation in conjunction with the energy turnaround. This is clear, I think so. According to the media, politics and business, battery-powered electric cars and autonomous driving cars are the first and most important problem solvers. But the social and political consequences of our transport system on quality of life are not part of the now story. Regardless of the need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the transport sector, there are other reasons why the current dominance of motorized individual traffic in our cities is reaching its limits. All pollutants, from nitrogen oxides to particulates, heats and noises are becoming a problem, along with the car accidents. There are 1.35 million people died a year worldwide. And the waste of huge areas, not to forget, by car parks and roads. The only remnants of public space in cities are lost to urban life. Before we start showing fascinating technical solutions in exhibitions, we should not forget to address important questions about the whys and wherefores. The main one, to my mind, is how do we want to live? If we don't ask this question and somehow assume it has been answered, then all ideas, supposed solutions and plans are pointless. This brings me to the core point of the exhibition. What is the problem with transport in cities for the urban life itself? It seems to me that our present, or it seems, not only to me, I think so, it seems that our present transport system has reached an impasse. The number of passenger cars grew faster than roads could be built. And this trend is ongoing even today. In the past, traffic was what made inner city exchange possible. Now, cities are in danger of collapsing from too much traffic. What does it mean? To what extent are cities threatened by traffic? A city enables a fundamentally new kind of human interaction compared to other types of settlement. Exchange in a city takes place on town squares, on streets, on the marketplace, in public spaces. We heard about communication. If public spaces are not inviting, if neighborhoods are cut off from one another by roads, there is less and less exchange between people. This hinders social and political life in a city. It also threatens the key function of a city. It cannot fulfill its role anymore as a place for opinion making. It loses its innovative and economic strengths. Its cultural achievements are diminished, and is the quality of life. Of course, this takes a while and is ongoing. Our exhibition evokes and presents options for the design of future cities and possible solutions for modes of transport. We want to invite our visitors to develop utopian ideas about future urban life in the city. Because without a vision of the future, all plans will come to nothing. Should things continue as they are, with more, less, or different technology? Is growth at all compatible with a finite world? Will we find the good life in a post-growth society in which we will have less, but be more? And what does it mean? We all know utopias can lead us astray, but without them, we also lack ideas about how we want to live in the future. Consuming fewer resources, promoting green growth, paying for carbon emissions, or making urban public transport sustainable are all worthy goals. But they do not offer a utopia for a better world. A world without utopias, without positive visions of the future that we consider achievable, loses its meaning for us. And as a result, we lose our motivation and orientation in the world. Our action to shape the future becomes directionless and therefore meaningless. Therefore, our society must develop a vision of a future we truly desire. A concept for a better life in the future in harmony with a sustainable life on Earth. Now, if people who have never met before come together at an exhibition in a museum and talk about the mobility transformation in their city, which they are passionate about and committed to, and if this mobility transformation involves the question of how we want to live, then we will, I think so, at least have one thing less to worry about. Thank you very much.